bouffant hairdo, a string of pearls, little platform heels. And she says, "Hi, I'm Joanie, a longtime resident here at the Assisted Living Center. I play the piano every week at Bible study. Now, you're going to start Bible study reading the 23rd Psalm, and you're going to end it with a hymn called Alone in the Garden. Hi, Joanie, how are you? Nice to meet you. Listen, Joanie, I have a meeting I need to go to, so why don't you and I talk a little while after the meeting?" Joanie sits down and proceeds to tell me about everyone who lives in the Assisted Living Center, what all their problems are, and how I should pray for them. "Thanks, Joanie, that's wonderful, but I really have to get to this meeting that I'm now 15 minutes late for." She says, "Don't worry, dear, you're gonna make a fine chaplain." And off she goes. I run out to make it to the meeting, and I see a guy sitting in the corner scowling out the window. He strikes me as rather odd. In the 20 minutes that I've been at the Assisted Living Center, he's the first person I've seen with a full head of hair. And it's not gray. Something's going on here. So I go to my meeting, and I'm told what my duties are. I'm to go to the hospital to make hospital visits, visit some of the seniors who can't leave their homes, just be available for them. Just before I leave, they say, "Now listen, you may have noticed a guy sitting out there near the window looking really mean. His name is Jimmy. He's really mean. He's not happy. He hates it here. His kids dropped him off. They don't come visit him. He's from Brooklyn. Don't take it personally." I go straight to Jimmy. I said, "So, Jimmy, they tell me that you think the best pizza in the world is from Brooklyn. And everybody knows the best pizza in the world is from Manhattan, with Queens playing a close second." He looks up at me, "Who are you?" I said, "Hi, I'm Adrian. I'm the student chaplain. Is there anything I can do for you?" Booze and broads. Booze and broads. Can you do that? "No, Jimmy, I can't do that, but I'm the student chaplain. Is there anything else I can do for you?" Gambling. Gambling. Can you do that? "You know what, Jimmy? That I can do." I ran into the office, I pull out the deck of cards that I keep with me because you never know when you have to play a game of solitaire. And I come back and I say, "Jimmy, I don't know how to play poker." I lie. "Can you teach me how to play poker?" And he says, "Yeah, okay." So we play a couple of hands of poker, I lose miserably, and he throws the cards down. He says, "This isn't gambling, there's no money." "Give me a couple of days, Jimmy, I'll figure it out." I come back a couple of days later with a jar full of pennies. Sit down with my jar full of pennies. We get to playing, I start beating Jimmy ridiculously. And Jimmy says, hey, I know when I've been hustled. I've been hustled here. And this is, by the way, not gambling. These are pennies. I said, "Jimmy, pennies are money. Money is gambling. We're gambling. Let's play." And he says, "Aren't you a minister?" I said, "Yeah." And he goes, "Won't you get in trouble for gambling?" "Yeah, probably, but let's have some fun until that happens, shall we?" He's like, "Okay." And Jimmy begins to tell me his story. And we play poker for pennies 2 times a week for several weeks. And he tells me that he's from Brooklyn, that he was adjacent to, but not in, the mafia. That his children convinced him to come down to Atlanta, but then moved him into the assisted living center and never come to see him. Jimmy was right about one thing. I got in trouble. I was called into the office, and they said, "You are the minister. You don't get to gamble. You don't get to gamble publicly." And I said, "But wait a minute. Jimmy's doing well. You said the guy didn't talk. You said he was mean. Look at him. He's laughing. He's having a ball." And they're like, yeah, that's all well and good, but you don't get to gamble. You're the minister." Okay, great. So I said, "Let's think about this. Tell you what we do. How about at the end of every game, I scoop up the pennies, put them in the jar, put the jar back in my office, and then technically there's no gambling happening." They agreed to that, and I said, "Aha, got to use my lawyering skills, so this is good. So among other responsibilities I had was visiting the sick in the hospital. You know, you go, you get a list of the residents who are in the hospital, you go and see them, tell them everyone's thinking about them, and you pray with them. And one day I'm at the end of my rounds, and I get on the elevator, and there's a woman crying hysterically. And I said, "Hi, how are you?" And she said, "Oh, I'm terrible." I said, "Oh, okay," and got off the elevator. And something said, "Get back on the elevator. You're the chaplain. Help this woman." So I back up, I get back on the elevator, I said, ma'am, is there anything I can do to help you? And she said, yes. My boyfriend was in a really bad motorcycle accident, and they won't let me see him because he's in ICU. So could you go see him and pray for him? So I said, sure, I can do that, I can handle that, no problem. So I'm like, well, upstairs I go to ICU, I go see the ICU nurse, I show her my badge, student chaplain, and I said, hi, I'm here to pray for the gentleman who was in the motorcycle accident. And she says, oh, room 8. I go to room 8, and there's a group of doctors and nurses and technicians surrounding a bed. And as I walk in, one of the nurses moves one way, one of the doctors moves another way, and I see the person in the bed. There's no skin on his face. Half of his eye is hanging out of the socket. His teeth are a mangled mess. I leap back and scream, oh my God, what happened to you? The room freezes, the doctor turns around, he says, get out now. And I said, hey, I'm the student chaplain, get out, go stand over there. And I'm shaken by this, and I go and I stand there and I hang my head, and they do whatever they do, and the doctor comes out, he says, let me tell you something. You're supposed to be a professional. That man is on the brink of death. He does not need you to come in here and have the kind of reaction you had. Now get yourself together. Get yourself together, go in there, do what you're supposed to do, be a professional, and then leave. So I walk in, and there's only one nurse left in the room by this time. And I said to her, is there any part of his body I can touch that won't cause him pain? She points to one hand. So I grab his hand and I said, sir, your girlfriend asked me to come and pray for you. And his eyes well up with water. And she wanted me to tell you that she loves you and she's not gonna leave this hospital without you. May I pray for you? And I pray for him, and when I'm done, he's crying. And I walk out and I'm thinking, I don't know if it was my lack of professionalism, being called out for my lack of professionalism, the tears that he had, because I didn't know if I was causing him pain by touching him, but I felt like maybe I'm not really good at this. And I felt really, really awful. I got in the car and I was like, wow, maybe, I don't know. I know what I'll do. I'll get myself together and I will liven up Bible study. That's what I'll do, because Bible study was deadly dull. And I said, I can get this right. I know I can get this right. So I show up at Bible study with new scriptures and new hymns, because we're gonna liven this thing up and we're gonna have a good time. So I walk in, I pass out all the new hymns. I say to Joanie, hey, Joanie, here's some new music we're gonna play. And Joanie looks at me and I said, okay, here we go. And I start to sing, no one joins me, and I'm singing, and I hear this rustling noise, and I look, and all the ladies, because only the ladies went to Bible study, are getting up, and they're grabbing their walkers, and they're grabbing their canes, and they're walking out, albeit very, very slowly. I am in the middle of a full-fledged Bible study revolt. I look over at Joanie. Joanie shakes her head, walks out, and the only person left was the lady who slept in the front row every week during Bible study. I go back to my office, and Joanie's sitting there, and Joanie says, dear, let me explain something to you. We read the 23rd Psalm every week because Mrs. So-and-so read it to her husband every night before he died, and so it has a lot of meaning to us. We sing Alone in the Garden every week because many of us have visual and memory issues, and we can't learn new songs. I suggest that before you try and get people where you want them to be, you understand where they are and meet them there. And then she passed me on the back of my hand and she says, don't worry, you're gonna make a fine chaplain someday. And such was my life at the assisted living center, from one crisis to another, setting off the sprinkler system when I tried to sneak a meal in the community kitchen because I didn't want to eat Jell-O Delight, or the time that I allowed the blind lady's emotional support cat to escape during a visit, always followed by a reprimand in the front office, which they called lovingly coaching and mentoring, followed by Joanie's visit, where she would explain to me what I did wrong and how I could do better, always leaving by patting my hand and saying, but don't worry, dear, someday you're gonna be a fine chaplain. I realized that I was not cut out for this. I had made a mistake and I just needed to get to the end of this experiential learning experience and get my life back together. So I'm wrapping up my responsibilities, my last week of hospital visits. I go to the hospital and I see a man in a wheelchair being pushed to a car. And I said, he looks remotely familiar. I'm not sure where I know him. And then I see the woman pushing him and she looks at me. She recognizes me. I instantly recognize her. It's the lady from the elevator. That's the guy from the motorcycle accident. Oh my goodness, he made it. He's alive. I did something right. I did something right. He survived the motorcycle accident. Wait till I tell Joanie. Wait till I tell Joanie I did something right. So I go through my hospital visits. I can't wait. I get in the car. Wait till I tell Joanie I did something right. I get to my office. There's a note to come immediately to the front office. And I thought, whoop, some other disaster happened and I'm about to have my nice mentoring and coaching session. So let me just get ready for that. But I'm going to tell them the man lived. And I walk in, they tell me to have a seat, and I have a seat. And they said, Adrienne, we just need to let you know that Joanie died last night. She had a sudden heart attack in her sleep, and Joanie died. Her family is going to hold the funeral here, and we would like for you to read the 23rd Psalm. You can do that, right? I said, yep, I can do that. I can do that for Joanie. So we come to the funeral. I stand up to read the 23rd Psalm. I see Jimmy walk in a suit and tie. I didn't even know Jimmy owned a suit and tie. And there he was, coming to Joanie's funeral. And I open the Bible, and I say, the Lord is my shepherd. I drop my head, and tears well up. And I begin to cry. And cries turn into sobs, and sobs turn into wailing. And I'm standing there in front of everyone, wailing and heaving and crying and crying. And suddenly I see coming towards me Joanie's son. And Joanie's son comes and he puts his arms around me and he's comforting me. It's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. And I'm thinking, I can't even get this right. I'm supposed to comfort the family and I'm a mess. And I see out of the corner of my eyes, the senior chaplain just shake her head and hang it low. I was like, oh, this is a disaster. So we get through the funeral. A few days later, I'm there to pack up my belongings because I only have a couple of weeks left. So I said, well, I might as well get a start on that. And I get a note that I need to be seen in the office. And I think, well, they can't even wait a couple of weeks to the end of this thing. They're going to let me go today. They're going to say, you're not cut out for this. It was a nice experiment, but hey, we learned something. You are not supposed to be a minister. Good luck. So I go in and they said, please have a seat. And I'm preparing myself for this. I said, we want to read you a letter that Joanie's son just sent us. And I thought, oh, this is going to be a bad one. Yeah. And he said, my family and I have always felt extreme guilt over moving our mother into an assisted living center. And we sat with that guilt for years. But when that lady chaplain broke down while reading our mother's favorite prayer, we realized that she was truly loved, and this was her home, and that she was cared for. And all of that guilt just lifted off of our shoulders. So as a thank you, we like to give you, and it turned out to be the largest gift by a private individual to this particular assisted living center. The senior chaplain gets up, she walks past me, she puts her hand on my shoulder, and she says, you've become a fine chaplain. Thank you.
Well, it was a sweet story. Excuse me.
Dr. Adrienne R. Lutson calls herself a Renaissance woman with a Peter Pan streak. She's a cultural anthropologist, administrative law judge, author, public speaker, minister, and performance artist. But she says her true passion is traveling the world, sharing and hearing stories. For the Moth's 25th anniversary, 5 of our longtime story directors spent 18 months putting all our knowledge about storytelling into a book. It's called How to Tell a Story, the essential guide to memorable storytelling from the Moth. And it's full of tips on how to tell your own stories, whether that's on stage at the Moth, or in a job interview, or while giving a toast. But we wrote a lot about this topic of honoring our loved ones by telling stories about them. Telling stories is a way to make sure precious memories of beloved family members get passed on to future generations.
You good,
And
Kanye?
cement them in our collective memories.
What kind of cells were you
Here's the
talking
Moth's
about?
senior curatorial producer, Suzanne Rust,
Cells
on
from
how she honors her parents.
where?
This is excerpted from the audiobook version of How to Tell a Story.
I am forever weaving stories about my parents into conversations, and my children, who never got the chance to meet my wonderful mother, often toss her stories back to me. And through them, they have a pretty good idea about her. Talking about my parents is like sprinkling a little handful of fairy dust that brings them back to life for a few moments. I'm a big believer in celebrating my parents' birthdays every year. I make their favorite meal and pour them a drink, vodka and tonic for her, rum and coke for him. But really, it's just another excuse to talk about them and have a good laugh or cry and repeat our favorite stories about them.
That was my fellow radio host, Suzanne Rust. A final tip. If you're trying to capture
Suzanne
stories
Rust
of a
with
loved
fairy
one,
dust.
especially someone who is elderly and perhaps suffering from memory loss, try recording them while they go through family photos. The pictures can trigger memories that might otherwise be lost. That's what the Moth's executive producer, Sarah Austin Jeunesse, did. Again, taken from our audiobook.
My grandpa Jack was in the throes of dementia when I recorded him talking about his life. He had no short-term memory left, but with the help of photographs, my grandmother and I were shocked and delighted to know that his long-term memory was still intact. With each black and white photo we revealed to him, he was transported. He told us of his lake vacations in the summer as an only child and his doting parents. He said, "My father was an insurance salesman. He cared so much about his few clients. He kept visiting and asking if they were all right and if they needed more insurance. They didn't need more insurance. He needed more clients." The photographs lit up not only detailed memories from the past, but also his dry sense of humor that we worried had vanished.
That was Sarah Austin Jeunesse.
It's a dry
Coming up,
humor.
the writer Elizabeth Gilbert tries in vain to manage the illness of her headstrong wife. That's when the Moth Radio Hour continues.
That sounds
This show is
good.
supported
Should we
by
listen to
Progressive
it?
Insurance. Take the next step forward in your career. Both virtual and
Should we
hybrid
call it
roles are
quits or
available
should we
in
listen
an
to that
award-winning
story?
workplace. Go to careers.progressive.com and apply today.
The Moth Radio Hour is produced by Atlantic Public Media in Woods Hole,
Hello.
Massachusetts, and presented by the Public Radio Exchange, prx.org.
What does aging look like in Colorado? For Angela Lee, it's more than 700 handwritten letters, bringing purpose and joy at age 92.
And I could not understand why they were writing to an old lady.
Discover stories of resilience and connection in Aging Matters from Colorado Matters at CPR.org.
With support from the Denver Hospice.
Your donation keeps the reporting reliable and the music alive on Colorado Public Radio.
Well,
Every report,
shall we
every
give it
song, every voice
another
you
minute
count
or
on.
should we go?
When you give, you help
Hello.
CPR live up to the mission to serve our state. You make
Hello,
sure
Five
the
Nights at
journalism,
Diddy's.
conversation, and music you depend on is
Like,
funded. CPR
what is it
exists
about my
because
channel that
you
it's
choose to
Trista
support
Constant
what
Troll
matters.
Patrol?
Thanks for keeping
But
Colorado
thanks for
Public
saying
Radio
hello,
here for
Five
Colorado.
Nights at Diddy's. Oh my
This is the Moth
gosh.
Radio Hour from PRX. I'm Catherine Burns. In this hour, we've been talking about how people live on through the stories we tell about them. Peter Aguero once hosted a show in New Bedford, Massachusetts. And after a teller shared a story about losing a loved one, Peter reminded the audience how the simple act of hearing that story brought their memory to life.
And it's a really beautiful thing. I'm very lucky, and I get to hear lots of stories. And they say that when we die, we really die twice. You die once when your body's gone, and then you die again when your name is said for the last time. So when we tell stories about the people that we lost, they stay alive, So I implore you to please, tell the stories about the people that you love that are gone, so they'll never be gone, know? You just say their name again. They're still alive. On the count of three, everybody say the name of someone that they love that isn't with us anymore. Just on the count of three. Everybody all together. 1, 2, 3. And they're still alive. They're still here with us. Thank you so much. Yeah.
That was Peter Aguero at A Moth in New Bedford. A few years back, I got to know someone truly remarkable when her partner, Elizabeth Gilbert, took the Moth stage at St. Anne's Church in Brooklyn Heights. Here's Elizabeth live at the Moth.
You ready for a story?
Last summer, I was walking down the street in New York City in the East Village, and it was a glorious day, and the sun was bright, and I had the love of my life on my arm, and she was dying. Really dying. She had advanced pancreatic and liver cancer, and the tumors had grown and they had spread, and she had recently discontinued all chemo and medical treatment because it was hopeless, and all she wanted at this point in her life was to try to find small ways to enjoy whatever was remaining to her. And what that meant on this day was that she wanted to try to mobilize to get herself out of the house and walk to Tompkins Square Park and get a self-serve ice cream cone. Now, Tompkins Square Park was 4 blocks from where we lived, but it truly might as well have been Kilimanjaro for the amount of effort that it took her to do it on this day. And she was on her cane, and she's leaning her full weight against me, what's left of her full weight, because she's gotten so thin. And I've got my arm around her, and I can feel her little bones through her sweater, and my heart is breaking, because this day signifies a turning point in her illness that I had known was coming, and I had dreaded was coming, and now it is here. And it is the day where she has now gotten so frail and so weak that we can officially say that this once formidable person is now completely dependent on me. And the reason that's so particularly heartbreaking, it would be heartbreaking for anybody, but the reason it was so painful in this case is what you gotta know about my girl is that for the 17 years that I knew Rhea Elias, I never once saw that woman walk into a room that she was not the most powerful person in that space. Never once, didn't matter what. She was so tough, so strong, so hot. She was a Syrian-born, Detroit-raised, glamour butch lesbian, punk rock, ex-heroin addict, ex-felon, rock and roll music star, artist, filmmaker, hairdresser, writer, phenomenon of a human being. And in the circles that we rolled in, Rhea was legend. Not just because she was so tough and so street smart, but also because she had this enormous, capacious, generous heart. And she was ferociously protective of anybody who she cared about. If you were lucky enough to be one of the people who Rhea loved, she would just tuck you under her arm and name you as one of her little cubbies, like we were all the little wolf cubs and she was the mama wolf. And she would just take you through the world and you were never in danger when Rhea was there. I have never experienced a feeling like it, and that's exactly why I fell in love with her and why I blew up my entire life. To be with her was precisely and expressly because of that power. But now she's powerless. And as we're inching along the sidewalk on Avenue A, I'm feeling that for the first time, and I'm feeling how the tables have turned, because now I've got her tucked under my arm. And now it's my job to protect her from a world that she used to dominate effortlessly. And I don't know if you've ever taken care of somebody who's sick and dying, but when somebody who you love is very fragile, one of the things that happens is the entire world starts to feel incredibly perilous. You know, every crack on the sidewalk is something that could trip her and she could hurt herself. Every kid on a skateboard, every big dog could knock her over. So it's my job to keep her safe, and I've got her bundled up and I'm navigating her down this world. And it's so terrible to watch her decline, but the one consoling thought that I'm having in that moment is, thank God she has me. Like, thank God, or what would we do? Like, who would protect her if I wasn't here? And at that moment, this super sketchy guy on a bicycle comes terrassing up the sidewalk super fast. He's like this gross, meth head looking, crusty bearded, nasty guy, and he's got a furious face, and he's tearing so fast up the sidewalk, careening into pedestrians, and he's coming right at us, and he almost plows us over, and I managed just at the last minute to grab Rhea and pull her out of the way for safety, but he clips her. He hits her on the arm with his bike handlebar as he goes by. And I'm like, oh my God, my baby. At which point, Rhea turns on her heels and says, get the off the sidewalk, mother. And the guy screeches to a halt, drops his bike, grabs his crotch and goes, suck my bitch. And Rhea goes, if you hadn't you'd be driving a car, not a bicycle, you loser. And I'm like, kids. I'm from Connecticut. And I need everybody to just take it down a notch. But I'm also looking at her and I'm thinking, what are you literally backing this up with? Like, she weighs 87.5 pounds at this point. And I'm thinking, what are you gonna do, Ray, if this guy comes at you? And then I see it, that he's not gonna come at her. Because she's locked eyes with him and she has communicated to him very clearly that she is the alpha and he is the mutt. And everybody can see it, him most of all. He drops his eyes, grabs his bike, scuttles off. And Rhea keeps on inching down the sidewalk with her cane, gets her soft serve, finds herself a nice little sunny spot in the park, smiles up at me and says, today's a good day, babe. So yeah, this story that I had in my head when Rhea got sick about how helpless and dependent she was going to become, that never actually happened. Because somehow, despite the advances of the disease, Rhea managed to remain the apex predator in every situation that she came into. And every plan that I had made, because you know I made plans to take care of her, every plan I made based on my perceived idea of her helplessness, that all blew up too. And my whole planning had been based on this idea that I was powerless to stop her from dying, but by God, I was gonna make sure that she had the gentlest, the safest, the most zen, the most enlightened, the most cushioned death that a human being could possibly have. But she didn't want any of that I was providing, as it turned out, because Ray didn't want gentle. That's not how she rolled. So she didn't want to talk to the bereavement counselor that I brought to our house. She wanted to watch football that afternoon with her nephews. And I made her all this beautiful organic food to keep her as healthy as we could keep her, and she didn't want it. She wanted to live on Oreos and cigarettes, and did live almost exclusively on Oreos and cigarettes for a solid year past her original expiration date, as she called it. And of course, I got her signed up with hospice because I wanted to make sure that she had the best and safest quality home care. And then Rhea got kicked out of hospice because she wouldn't let the nurses in when they came to check on her. So they'd come for their weekly check-ins and she didn't send them away. She didn't want to deal with them, didn't want to look at their faces, didn't want to deal. So hospice threw her out, which causes me to beg of you and of the universe, who the hell gets kicked out of hospice? Like, how is that a thing? But that's what happened. And I went through all this trouble to rent and create this beautiful apartment for her to spend her last months in, with everything that I could imagine that she could possibly need: a doorman building and an elevator and wide hallways for the inevitable wheelchair that would be coming, and an extra room for a caregiver if we needed a night nurse toward the end. Everything that you could possibly imagine, this beautiful, soft, sunny space. And then 2 months before she died, Rhea decided that she didn't want to be in New York, that she wanted to move to Detroit. She wanted to go back home to be with her family and to party with her friends from 30 years ago, so she moved. My fragile terminal cancer patient moved to another city, and what did? I did what I'd always done with Rhea. I followed. I scampered after her like the little cub that I had always been, and blew up my life once again just to try to keep up with the she-wolf. So even Rhea, not even Rhea, tough as she is, of course, was tough enough to withstand pancreatic cancer. And the disease continued to eat at her, and by November of last year, the doctor said, it's any time now. She's on borrowed time already, but it could be at any moment. And knowing that she was so close to the end, Rhea called in her ex-wife, Gigi, who she'd been married to 10 years earlier, and asked her to come and help take care of her. And she had also already called in her ex-girlfriend, Stacy, from 20 years ago, and she had me. So now what Rhea's got is a hot blonde from every decade of her life waiting on her, hand and foot with devotional love, which is Rhea Elias's version, of course, of hospice. And that totally worked for her, the Charlie's Angels way of being taken care of. And we did it. We did it because we were crazy about her, because she was that Mac Daddy, and she still was. She managed to live till Christmas. I don't know how, but she pulled it off. It was important to her. And on Christmas Eve and Christmas Day, she couldn't get off the couch, and she was in and out of awareness, but she knew that we were there, and she knew that we were loving on her, and she was happy. And at midnight on Christmas night, we put her to sleep, and at 4 o'clock in the morning, I had to wake her up to give her her pain medication, and I couldn't rouse her. And this was the first time that had ever happened. So I just laid with her for an hour and waited for another hour, and I tried again. I couldn't get any response from her. Another hour, no response. And by the time that the light of dawn was breaking through the snowstorm outside, I could hear that her breathing was ragged, and her lips and her hands were turning blue. And I knew, it's it. So I went and I got Stacy and Gigi, and I said, it's now, come. And what happened next was so exquisite. It was so beautiful. It was like the three of us, these three women who had loved her so passionately for her whole life, we just knew what to do, like it had been scripted or that we were born to it. We just came into the bedroom, and Gigi put on sacred music, and Stacy lit a candle, and then the three of us as one got on the bed, and we wrapped our bodies around her body. And we took turns telling her all the last things that she needed to know if she could still hear us, that we loved her, that she was incredible, what a grand and stellar life that she had lived, that we would never be the same for having loved her and been loved by her, that she had forged our hearts in the furnace of her power, that we would always love her, and that we would never stop telling the world her name. And then it was like this silence descended, and it was like this portal opened from some distant, uncharted part of the universe, and this river of the infinite entered into that space, and we could feel it, that it was taking her very gently from us. And that's when Rhea opened her eyes and said, what the f*** are you guys doing? And we're like, nothing. Nothing. She's like, what's going on? I'm like, definitely not a bedside death watch. Like, no, that's not. We're like wiping sheets of tears from our eyes. She goes, babe, why are Stacy and Gigi in our bed? I'm like, they're not. They're just dropping off some mail. Like kicking them out of bed. Gigi's running to turn off the music. Rhea's like, why does it smell like a candle in here? Stacy's like, it doesn't. We're just, no, it's my shampoo. And Rhea's like, you guys are weird. She sits up in bed, lights a cigarette, looks at me and goes, babe, what's today's date? I said, it's December 26th, my love. And she said, cool. I want to hit that 60% off sale today at Lululemon. So that's what we did. A couple hours later, we're all at Lululemon. There's Rhea in the dressing room, surrounded by her attendants, trying on athleisure wear for some future that she's still very much intending to have. Somebody once told me, and I wish to God that I had got it sooner, that there is no such thing as a dying person.
Sorry,
There are
Ariane.
living people and there are dead people. And as long as somebody is alive, as long as they have any sentience or sense about them, you have to expect and allow them to be who they have always been. Never more important than at the end of somebody's life that they get to be who they are and who they always were. And I think that goes a long way toward explaining why Rhea was so resistant, why she was so stubbornly oppositional to every story that I had in my mind about what her death might be or should be. She just wasn't having it. From the beginning of the diagnosis till the end of her life,
Pray
she
into
was
the
like,
goddess
I'm not
and
your
Jesus
story
for-
whore. Like, you don't get to script this. I'm Rhea Elias, my life, my death. I'm doing it my way. You don't write this one. I'm doing this one. So it was just a handful of days after Christmas when she did die. And hers was not a gentle death. I'm sure you'll be shocked to hear.
Yeah, praying for Iran,
She went
praying
down
to God
fighting,
and Jesus.
and it was rough. And
Save
even there,
Iran.
at the end, I still had stories in my head about what I wanted it to be and how I wanted it to go. And I had this very airy, dreamy, romantic idea about what Ray's last words would be to me, that she would gaze up at me from a soft pillow and say, "I love you," or "Thank you for everything you did for me." You're getting the idea. Rhea Elias's last words to me were, "No, baby, no." As I was trying to walk her from the bathroom to what would be her deathbed, "No, baby, no." It was the last steps that she was ever going to take in her remarkable life. "No, baby, no." Her legs didn't even work anymore. "No, baby, no. I got this." And what I got, but I only got it at the very end, was that Rhea didn't want my help. She didn't want my pity. She didn't want my planning. She certainly didn't want my story. The only thing that Rhea wanted from me was that thing which I had always so effortlessly and naturally given her, which was my devotion and my awe. She just wanted me there in the room in love with her and bearing witness as she took that last ride. She just wanted me standing back in amazement and horror, but mostly amazement, watching as she went down, as she came out of this earth, not gently, but like a ship going down in a storm at sea, like the force of nature that she was. And in the end, the only thing that I could do for her in those last harrowing hours was nothing. It was nothing, except to surrender to my powerlessness and to have to let her go and to have to watch her go. And she went down swinging and battling to the last awful breath. And it was brutal. And it was beautiful. And she was brave. And I howled like a wolf when she was gone. And I will never stop telling the world her name.
Hey, Kittensworth, you're still here. And thank you, Yora? Sorry, I can't read it.
Elizabeth Gilbert is the best-selling author of 9 books of fiction and nonfiction, including Eat, Pray, Love and City of Girls. Elizabeth was raised on a small family Christmas tree farm in Connecticut, but she currently lives in New York City. And for those of you who aren't familiar with her, Rhea Elias was a Syrian-born writer, musician, hairdresser, and filmmaker. She was just 57 when she died, and her own book, Hardly Loco, a memoir of hard living, hair, and post-punk, was published in 2013. On the 1-year anniversary of Rhea's death, Elizabeth sent me a link to a Neil Young song. She wrote, "Rhea asked me to ask you to play this song for her so loud today."
Well, here we go. Rock and roll is here to stay. Better to burn out than to fade away. Hey.
At this hour, to tell a story of your own, maybe about someone you love who's no longer with you. That's it for this episode. We hope you'll join us next time for the Moth Radio Hour.
Moving into the black. They give you this, but you paid for that. And once you're gone, you can't come back. When you're out of the blue and into the black.
Co-producer.
Okay, thank you, Yono. Kittensworth, where'd you go? What the hell? Sorry about the trolls. Joseph's cool, though. Yono's cool, it seems like. Yono says, between us, let us pray for your day without Trump schizo ass carrying us just by hair to World War III. Yeah, fuck World War III, fuck Donna Kupatinsky, fuck Putin. Okay, Duster, thanks. Oh, hi, Kittensworth. Nice to see you again. Have you ever been on my YouTube live before? This is an interesting development. Hello, George. Joseph is cool, by the way.
We receive funding from the National Endowment.
That Neil Young song jams, too. Iron Dome is Iran's target to soften its defense. Wait, I thought they already beat the Iron Dome. That way the larger, more destructive munitions can get through. Oh shit, I bet, dude. It's just begun. If Iran defends themselves like Israel's been defending itself, we're cooked. We're totally fucked here in America. Between us, first time after I got my IG banned. Oh, dude, I'm not on any Facebook products. I mean, I'm on Facebook, but I haven't been on there in years. Not YouTube, but I see you live Wednesdays and Fridays. Here. Oh, right, live. Duh, never mind. But I'm only here for the Beavis and Butthead references in the chat. They will. This is not going to end anytime soon. Oh, not at all. Dude, this has just started and we need to end it on our end. We need to be the ones to stop it. But yeah, Kittensworth, Joseph Bearpaw is cool. I just met Duster, but he seems cool too. But Bearpaw's been here for a long time.
Hello and welcome to Newsday on the BBC.
I'm glad you discovered YouTube. Yeah, everybody's leaving TikTok since it's Trump talk now, since they took it over.
Donald Trump has warned Americans that more lives could be lost as the joint US-Israeli strikes
warned us.
Iran continue.
Israel and Hezbollah have also been trading fire as the Iran conflict widens and enters its third day. The Lebanese government says that at least 31 people have been killed.
Well, both the Americans and Israelis have warned that this conflict could go on for a while, with President Trump saying it could last for 4 to 5 weeks. Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has said the attacks would only escalate. We'll be heading to Lebanon and Israel.
4 to 5 weeks? That sounds like Putin. Putin thought his Ukraine war would last 4 days. It's 4 years.
The transportation of a fifth of the world's oil. But first, the latest world news.
Okay, here comes the news, y'all. Then probably after the news, we'll shut it down because I've been sitting in the car for 40 minutes.
BBC News with Danielle Yawowiecka. Israel is striking Hezbollah targets across Lebanon after the militant group said it launched rockets and drones at Israel to avenge the killing of Iran's supreme leader Ali Khamenei. The Israeli forces have issued evacuation orders across Lebanon. From Jerusalem, here's John Donison.
There is now a new front in a war that is spreading across the Middle East. Last night, Hezbollah, the Lebanese Shia militia group that has been backed by Iran to the tune of billions of dollars, fired missiles at the Israeli city of Haifa. Israel responded with a wide-ranging air assault. Hezbollah's stronghold in the southern suburbs of Beirut was targeted, as well as areas close to the city's airport. In the south of the country, Israel has told people in more than 50 Lebanese villages to evacuate, with strikes there too.
Crude oil prices rose 10% as energy markets in Asia opened on Monday, their highest for months. It reflects the risk to shipping in the Strait of Hormuz, south of Iran. Nick Marsh is in Singapore.
We saw that initial really big spike in the price of oil. Things have eased a little bit since then, but still a big jump. It is really all to do with the Strait of Hormuz, where 20% of the world's oil supply has to pass through. And where does it go? It mostly comes here to Asia. So that's going to have obviously an impact on the price of oil. So it's gone up. It's also been reflected a little bit in the stock markets as well. So Tokyo is down, Hong Kong.
Joseph says it's not even been 2 days, and yet our first casualties. They killed at least 3 soldiers, American soldiers.
Explosions
Or
have been heard
Putin.
overnight in
Trump got him
Tehran as
killed.
a new wave of Israeli and US airstrikes hit the Iranian capital. Our international editor Jeremy Bowen has this report.
The U.S. Fifth Fleet and HQ in Bahrain was already hit. It was to disrupt our comms quality. What Joseph says.
Iranian weakness or confusion after the killing of their supreme leader. The message is that they dominate the skies and there's no place to hide. The Gandhi
Sure.
Hospital in North Tehran and 3 residential buildings next to it were badly damaged.
No way.
Unless they're being used as military positions, the laws of war
That's your
say
fleet.
hospitals are protected places.
Retaliatory missile fire by Iran claimed 10 lives in Israel, 3 in the UAE, and 1 in Kuwait.
Wow. Trump already got that
President
many
Trump
people
has told the American
killed?
broadcaster ABC News that some of the men identified as possible candidates to lead Iran had also been killed in the initial military attack. Writing on social media, the journalist Jonathan Karl said Mr. Trump had told him on the phone that the attack had been so successful it had knocked out most of the candidates. The president added that he had a pretty good idea about the new leadership, but declined to elaborate. You're listening to the latest
Well, Putin
world
puppets,
news
aren't they?
from the BBC.
Trump and all the Iranians.
Governors of the UN's nuclear watchdog, the
Putin treats his
International
allies.
Atomic Energy Agency, will hold an emergency meeting in Vienna today to discuss the US and Israeli strikes on Iran. The session was requested by Russia. It'll precede a previously scheduled regular meeting of the board. The IAEA says it's closely monitoring developments and has urged restraint. The government in Britain is beginning a 3-month consultation today into what access, if any, people aged under 16 should have to online social media and other platforms. More details from our technology editor, Zoe Klein.
Someone in the chat is an owl.
The possibility of a social media ban for under 16s has dominated the headlines, but the government is keen to hear views about a number of other ideas to improve children's digital experiences too. These include an overnight curfew on social networks, getting rid of infinite scrolling, and restricting young people's access to AI chatbots such as ChatGPT. It's also asking whether children should be able to use VPNs, which hide where in the world they are and can be used to bypass some restrictions. But privacy experts say it's important that VPNs should not be monitored.
The Argentinian president, Javier Milei, has said he wants to make the strategic alliance with the Trump administration in the US a state policy.
Oh, hell no.
State of the Nation
Never do
address to
anything for
Parliament,
Trump.
Mr. Milei said the South Atlantic would be the strategic battleground of the coming decades, adding that Argentina must be a player in the region. The Portuguese football coach Jose Mourinho has said he will not work with his team's Argentine star Gianluca Prestiani again if the player is found guilty of racism. The Benfica midfielder is under investigation by European football's governing body UEFA after he was accused by Real Madrid's Vinicius Jr. of racial abuse during a Champions League match last month. Prestiani denies the allegation. BBC News.
Many thanks for that news. Hello and welcome to Newsday from the BBC World Service, live from Nairobi with Anne Soy and from London with Hobio.
The programme will be dominated by events in the Middle East. There have in the past hour or so been more explosions in several Gulf cities, and the conflict appears to have widened with Hezbollah, the militant group in Lebanon, launching drone and missile attacks on northern Israel, and Israel launching a wave of bombing in Lebanon. We will bring you the latest this hour. As always, we welcome your thoughts on this story. +44 77 20 50 85.
Putin's puppet attacked Putin's other puppet, and look what happens. Look what happens if you ally yourself with Putin. He'll have one of his other allies kill you.
US-Israeli operation against Iran, and it is widening in the Middle East. In the early hours of Monday, people in Lebanon awoke to Israel strikes on Hezbollah targets across the country. That after the Lebanese militant group said it had launched rockets and drones at Israel to avenge the killing of Iran's supreme leader Ali Khamenei. Hezbollah has been backed by Iran. The Lebanese government says at least 31 people have been killed and more than 100 injured. Many thousands of people have been told to leave their homes. The Lebanese president, Joseph Aoun, has said that Hezbollah's actions have thwarted his government's efforts to spare his nation from a regional conflict.
We're now joined by Ghassan Hasbani, former Lebanese Deputy Prime Minister and sitting MP for the Lebanese
Work said the
Forces
brain
Party,
actively
the
maintains
largest
a
party in
dynamic
parliament when it
wave-based
comes to
mode of
newsday.
reality rather
Now,
than just
what is
passively
it like
receiving
this
sensory
morning
data.
where you are?
Well, it's exactly what we've been warning against for a long time, that Hezbollah is acting still outside the
I struggled just enough for this candy.
government, despite all the efforts that the Lebanese armed forces have undertaken in controlling and in confiscating weapons and depots related to Hezbollah, in the south of Lebanon. Yet they're still behind the Lebanese government and acting on their own outside the government's control.
Hopefully we can avoid World War III. And just keep in mind, it's all Putin's puppets fighting each other.
A regional conflict that has nothing to do with Lebanon specifically. And
the goal is to raise costs of oil through the roof, Joseph says. It will be to slow down conventional forces like tanks, artillery movement potentials.
What is your biggest concern about this widening conflict, which you say, Hezbollah has, brought in Lebanon into the mix?
Well, our biggest concern is that Lebanon, in its majority, rejects the acts of Hezbollah, and the government of Lebanon has taken a clear decision to curb the activities of Hezbollah and dismantle the military infrastructure of Hezbollah in Lebanon.
Duster said, for people who pride themselves with freedom, they definitely failed overthrowing tyrant.
Led to where we are today. We do
should help people overthrow their own tyrants, but if we're doing that, we got one.
That the government can expedite its activities in terms of.
If people think we did Iran a favor, why don't they repay us the favor?
War and peace decisions and holding and carrying arms across the country.
I believe Joseph knows what he's talking about. They probably are going to skyrocket the oil.
No doubt. And, nobody knows how long it will be for. But definitely Lebanon should not be part of it and is not capable of handling further conflicts and further devastation. We have people leaving their homes, being impacted by all of this, by the behavior of Hezbollah dragging Lebanon into this confrontation. We have.
I should probably shut it off, but
lots of people injured today.
Praying for peace. Pray to the goddess. Pray to Jesus. Pray to all good spirits for peace. I'm gonna shut it down though, so y'all stop typing. I might go live later. Joseph says exactly. It's one thing to say retake your state. It's a whole different thing to accomplish it.
What more can the Lebanese
Yeah,
government
and
do to rein in Hezbollah?
I don't think they know. Like, Trump should have known not to do it because his generals know more than he did, and they told him it's not going to work the way you think it's going to.
Of arms and confiscation of arms and dismantling of military infrastructure.
Well, they're going to try to take over the Venezuelan oil, yeah.
The country, not just in the south.
But all this stuff's going to backfire on them because they're terrible, terrible people.
But also across all Lebanese
country. And all Americans are against them now.
To ensure that
they're not getting away with it. But thanks, y'all.
Any decisions related to dragging Lebanon into a military conflict outside the government's control, those people are brought to justice and dealt
Thanks so much, shut down. I might go live later.
In the country, according to Lebanese law and constitution. So there should be a zero tolerance policy.
Yeah, Americans are going to do something about it.
This is no longer.
I mean, we're not going to just sit around waiting for the fascism to destroy our country. We're going to stand up at some point.
A civil war in Lebanon or so on and so forth. What we've been hearing as.
And all their stuff backfires on them. They're going to destroy themselves from I mean, they're destroying themselves. One of Putin's puppets attacked another one of Putin's puppets.
Yet again. So the government should have no choice but to be heavy-handed and enforce
which gives Iran all this reason, whatever, to do whatever the hell they want to do. I mean, it's kind of like, obviously Putin has an agenda here to unleash Iran.
Who's a former major general and former national
See you next time.
advisor to
Goodbye, sweet dreams, my
Israeli
beautiful
Prime Minister
prince.
Benjamin Netanyahu. He joins us now from Israel. Welcome back to the program.
Should we listen to what they
You
say?
heard there that view from
I don't think we should.
What, as you understand it, is the IDF, the Israeli Defense Forces, objective in Lebanon?
The objective is very clear. To destroy the ability of Hezbollah to attack Israel. It's very simple. It should be done by the Lebanese government. It hasn't been done by the Lebanese government. And probably Israel will have to do it by force because the Lebanese are promising since the ceasefire that they will do it, and they did very little, if at all, to neutralize the
People think
capabilities
they're
of
gonna do things.
Hezbollah, and
Dude,
we cannot
I don't
live in
think
a
they realize
situation in which
what they've
whenever
unleashed.
someone in Lebanon wants to attack Israel, he can do it. We have to be sure that it cannot be done. It's not
Yeah,
a
their
question of
excuse is going to be to try to take
intention,
over
of
all those surrounding
goodwill.
countries.
It's question of capabilities, and we should neutralize these capabilities of Hezbollah, something that supposed to be done by the Lebanese government hadn't been done by the Lebanese government up till now.
But we did just have, though, not all that.
You wait and see what an anti-war protest does to the rest of the protest. Anti-war protest in America is where it's really at.
Failed to eliminate Hezbollah's ability to strike the country then. What makes you think it can do it this time?
You got 4 things that are backfiring on Trump already. Anti-war protest in America is about to start up. That's the big one. Bigger than the No Kings protest, anti-war protest. Oh yeah, it's going to be huge. 2, I mean, it's going to be the No Kings protest and the anti-war protest. 2, Iran's response. What Iran is going to do. What they're already doing. 3, it shows that Putin's allies are all going to turn on each other. And 4, Iran's got all those tapes of Trump and kids. They don't have any reason not to release those tapes now. So that's just 4 reasons it's backfiring on them. No, Trump doesn't care about the American people. He's trying to destroy us for Putin. But the people are going to figure that out, and they're not going to let it happen.
Israeli and US strikes on Iran.
Joseph says Trevor, the military, now has unfiltered access to unrestrained measures leading Iran.
What else does Israel want? What else does Israel want? What's the point of the conflict?
Well, we have 3 aims in this operation. I mean the Americans and the Israelis, and we are united in this aims. First is to destroy totally the nuclear military project of the Iranians.
Which Donald Trump said had been done last year.
Yeah.
Yeah, we didn't finish the job.
Oh, didn't finish the job.
The same is about the ability to produce missiles, ballistic missiles, which had been launched more than 200 into Israel in these 2 days. And again, we begin to do it in June 25. We did very good.
Anyway, that's enough for the Zionists. Didn't finish the job. Dude, you're not beating Iran. I'll just put it that way. You're going to lose.
The third objective is to prepare the situation in which the Iranian people can get rid of this despotic totalitarian regime of the mullahs. For that, we have to make the regime much weaker directly by killing the decision makers.
Let's talk more soon. Comment on my content. Duster, check out my content, comment on my videos. You might have to scroll a while to find something you like.
Regime, and indirectly by, for example, destroying the navy of the Iranian army.
Joseph says they are fanatical for a reason. It's a nuclear power, and they are not Iraq. Yeah, it's a whole different story. But we'll stop Donna Kupatinsky and Putin. And if people are cheering on destroying one of Putin's puppets, well, how are you going to feel about the rest of Putin's puppets coming down?
It's better than Khamenei, who every morning got up and asked himself, okay, how I'm distracting Israel, and went to sleep every night asking what I did today to distract Israel.
Oh my God.
Yes,
Such narcissism.
There are other problematic situations, but a regime which
And not all narcissists are like that. Anyway, I'm going to get going.
Destroy Israel. And as you know, we brought the archive of the Iranians to Tel Aviv, and we know exactly what they had in mind when they are speaking about nuclear project. I don't see anything which is